What's more exciting than what I've already read? Well, it's what I'm going to read, right? Well, let's talk about what I'm going to read. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another TBR video. This time we're going to be talking about the winter of 2022. This is January, February, and March. Now, if you guys have just recently joined the channel, I don't like to do the TBR video every month. I feel like it kind of gets redundant, and I feel like it really... you'll go back and look at it and you'll be like, yeah, but you didn't read any of those things. I'm not trying to do that. I am going to say it's going to be a little more fluctuating this year because I am decided that I'm going to, ditch a lot of the rereads. That always kind of helped me stay a little more solid on what I said I was going to read than actually doing it. So I will say that I'm going to try to still stick to the quarter. I do have a schedule made up, and I've kind of scheduled a little light. That way I can fit some things in if I get through some of these big, heavy books that I've gotten some of these months a little faster than anticipated. But basically, I don't want to put too much pressure on, the how much I'm reading, because I feel like that is how you kind of lead to burnout, like I kind of had a little bit of in December. So I want to make sure I'm not doing that again. But yeah, I've got some plans here. We're going to start, like usual, guys, by talking about January of 2021. Now, the first one up is The Dragonbone Chair, the first book in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams. Now, we've already started this. This is part of a loose read-along on the Discord. By loose is it's not like the Malazan one where like, here's chapter 1 through 3, here's chapter 4 through 6. No, we're reading this in January. If you want to join us, you can join us on the Discord and talk to us about us there. If you want to just do that, if you want to just talk in the comments here, hey, that's cool. That's what we're here for. But yeah, I'll do a review for it and stuff like that. But it's not going to be like the big spoiler talks and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Depends on how many people really are into this. And then we'll kind of talk about how, what kind of content that we want on the channel for it. Then I have had to say that the reaction's been really positive, and the participation's been a little higher than I thought. Like, I knew Malazan at first it was going to be huge because there was so many people who've been putting that off for so long, and thought that, hey, this would be the perfect time to do it. So I'm kind of finding a similar response to this, and that people that had had this on their shelves for a long time and never really got around to it, now they feel like they're ready to do that. So yeah, we're doing one book a month, so this is the one for January, and like I said, I'm about a quarter of the way in, and I'm liking it quite a bit already, and that is very, very exciting, because I won't lie, when you've scheduled 3 months of reading a book series and you're not liking book one, it's kind of like, oh no, what have I done? So after that, like I said, I've got some openings in the schedule because I've ditched the rereads, really, is what I was saying. Like, I'm not going to be doing the Michael Crichton reread anymore. I'm not going to be beholden to the Into the Multiverse schedule. When those happen, they happen. I'm always going to talk about Psy King, but a lot of those I need to reread before I can really do a deep dive again for Into the Multiverse. So those will kind of happen when they happen. So what am I going to do with some of that extra time? Well, guys, I loved Empire of the Vampire, and I loved when I spoke with Mr. J. Let's try that again. I love when I spoke with Mr. J. Kristoff, and that means I'm going to be checking out Nevernight, another series of his that has quite the reputation. It is one of those like, for example, just go into Google Images and type in Nevernight J. Kristoff fan art, and you will be blown away by how much content there is out there. So people are nuts about this series. And I want to find out, really if Empire of the Vampire was like a one-hit wonder for me, or is J. Kristoff going to be an author for me to follow for a long time? Well, that gives me the opportunity to finally go back and check out Nevernight. Book number 1 in the Nevernight Chronicle. And, I guess I'll have a little extra time on my hands in January because I'm going to read more than 2 books, right? How about book number 2 of the Nevernight Chronicle? This is God's Grave. And again, the art on these books is just phenomenal, isn't it? I love it. It's just so cool. But this is a series, like I said, I feel like it's so super popular. And it's been like I had never even heard of this author. And then the 3rd book in Nevernight came out. And I was like, this is like everywhere. How have I never heard this before now? So it'll be fun to go back and see how I feel about these things. Because it seems like, unlike Empire of the Vampire, people who actually have read it, they're like, okay, yeah, it is. It actually is really good. Nevernight, I get mixed stuff. Some people love it and some people can't stand it. And I'm talking about people as in like people I trust, people that read similar things to me. I've heard both ways on that series. But that should probably cover January. Looking ahead to February, guys. Well, yes, I'm going to continue. Obviously, the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn read-along, that is going to be The Stone of Farewell. You know, again, something about this is these first 2 books, normal size for a fantasy book, and anytime you got a fantasy book with a big old sword on the front of it, usually, you know what? That's usually going to be a win for me. But again, with this series, I'm not going to just regurgitate everything I said for January, but I would be very encouraged if I get to this point, and I'm still really, really super excited about it, like I am right now in the beginning, because everybody's like, oh yeah, that first book, it starts so super slow. I had no problems with it, guys. It was great. I don't know, really. Maybe it's because I've read traditional fantasy before. I like seeing those slow things, like what is these characters' their lives like before everything really goes down the crapper, you know, and I think that's kind of his writing style. So when I get to this point, we'll be interested to see, okay, does it stay, you know, moderately paced, or some things happening? Look, guys, I don't need a ton of action to be engaged in a series, you know. Sure, it's nice, but, you know, to me, it's about character and plot. If I like your character and I like your story, I'm going to end up liking your world. If I like your world, but I could care less about your plot or your characters, that's the part that doesn't really work for me. So if it's going that direction, which is what it looks like right now, I really liking the characters already, and I'm liking the world that he's building, I'm thinking by this point, you know, it might be quite an exciting February, because after that, I'm going to finish the Nevernight Chronicle. This is book number 3. It's a Dark Dawn. And yeah, so, okay, look, you're like, oh, we only got like 2 series here. Yes, this is the way I want to do it, guys. I want to get more to less of this 1 book per month kind of thing with the series, and just kind of try to do something like what I just did in December with Anna Stevens and Goblin. I read all 3 of them in 1 month, and it was great. You know, not having to be like, okay, I got to wait for another month to see what happens in that series. So I don't think I'll be able to get it all in January. If I do, you know, if I really fly through Dragonbone Chair, and then I can just read all 3 of those Nevernight books. That, you know, reading 4 books in a month isn't unusual. I just think going back to work after the new year is going to be quite busy in my line of work, because I did take, you know, 2 weeks off over the holidays. So things are going to be a little busy. And so that leaves the end of February, really. That's the way I'm doing it now, instead of starting on the 1st, since there's so few people left in that Malazan read-along. This is book number 8, guys, Told the Hounds. What I don't like about this is I'm hearing that D word, and that D word is divisive. And it seems like whenever there's a book that comes up with the word divisive, I seem to fall on the side that doesn't like it. Reaper's Gale, divisive. Didn't like it. So this has me very concerned. I've seen people say this is their favorite in the entire series. I've seen people say this is their least favorite in the entire series. So we'll see what happens. And again, oh my, yeah. So they don't get thinner the rest of the way out. But I'm trying to stay encouraged, because look, I loved books 5 and book 6. I thought book 1, 2, and 3 got better, and better. So 4 and 7. So when you got 5 of the 7 books so far, you've really, really liked, and 2 you've been like didn't really hit for me. I'm hoping that this falls into the form, because look, guys, I thought that 5 and 6 just set the momentum so well. I was so excited. Everything was rolling really, really fast, and then book 7 just basically for 80% of that book just slammed the brakes and said, oh no, look at that. Look at that shiny object over there, instead of sticking to what was working for me. So maybe this can get back on task. I don't know. We'll see. Again, so many wild reactions to this one way or the other. It doesn't seem like there's any in between. It's either love it or can't stand it. I don't know. I was talking to my guy Alan from Library of Alexandria, and he can't stand this book. And me and him have been pretty much aligned so far in our Malazan opinion. So it has me very, very concerned, you guys. So that's why I'm moving it to the end of the month. That way, if I roll into a little bit of March, it won't be that bad, because I do have February and March to complete that book. Speaking of March, let's go ahead and talk about March. We are going to be doing To Green Angel Towers. This is book number 3 of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, but we're only going to be doing part 1. Now, if you look at this big old boy here, let's compare it to one of the other ones. This is Dragonbone Chair, the one I'm reading right now. Yeah, so as you can see, it's basically 2 books in one, so we're going to be breaking it up like the publication did when it came out. There is a part 1 and a part 2 in this book, and we do have that marked, and when I get to it, we'll talk about it. But if you are on the Discord, there is a pinned comment on the Discord about where to break this book up. So we're going to be doing To Green Angel Tower part 1 in March, and that will give us plenty of room to do a couple of the other things in there because there are going to be some new releases that month. Now, I've talked about Sun Eater by Christopher Ruocchio before. Well, in case you guys don't know, book number 4 is coming out in March. This is called Kingdoms of Death. Now, this was supposed to be it was basically supposed to be this long. It was basically supposed to be about as long as the Green Angel Tower, but the publisher was like, hey, yeah. So there's a different set of logistics with that. I'll let Mr. Ruocchio explain that. He's on the Discord if you guys want to talk to him. But basically, the book had to be split in half. So we're going to be getting one in March and one in December now. So this one's going to be a small compared to his last couple of books. But I think the Sun Eater, guys, like I said, is the best sci-fi series you're not reading right now. And I know a lot of you have picked it up, and I think everyone who has picked it up has been kind of blown away by how good it is. So this is definitely a word-of-mouth kind of series. It's one of those that, like, when people actually give it a try, they really do like it. So if you guys want to give it a shot, I say start now. That way, by March the 22nd, when his new book comes out, you'll be ready to go. You won't have to wait for any amount of time like some of us others have been waiting for this book for a while. So I'm excited to do that in March. I think that'll give us lots of room between that and Green Angel Tower Part 2 in April. There's a little tease for you for April. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in March is a big old asterisk. Now, I put a big asterisk here because when it comes to advanced reader copies or review copies for people like me, I find that publishers can be wildly inconsistent with making those available to you. There is a book coming out in April. This is Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. Now, they've given me the last few things without too much pulling teeth of actually getting these. I've actually gotten them on time. It hasn't been that bad. So I'm hoping this will kind of fall in there. So if I get that a little early, yeah, I'll be doing that in March because, guys, John Gwynne is like my guy right now in fantasy, and I'm excited to continue with Bloodsworn Saga. That's book number 2 in that series. So if that happens, I'll be doing it in March. If not, hey, I have several standalones and palette cleansers, which I talked about recently, that I can try to fit in that month. But also Green Angel Tower Part 1 and Kingdoms of Death. Those are some big boys, so they might actually take me the whole month. I don't know. Like I said, I'm giving myself a little more freedom this year to kind of take my time and not feel like I've got to rush anything to get everything in. So talk about if I got time for the rest of this quarter of the year here, the winter of 2021. If I've got some extra time, I got 5 books I'm kind of looking at that I could see fill in the blanks. First up, obviously, is Dolores Claiborne, because like I said, I do want to continue into the multiverse for sure, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing it on my terms instead of it being, just having to be a slave to the schedule, so to speak. So, yeah, anytime I can go back to the well, and pun intended, with this story, I'm excited to do so because this is a very good story in my memory, and I want to see how I feel about it, like I said, as an adult, and that's why most of these rereads I'm doing that I read back when I was 15, 16 years old. So that will definitely be at the top of the list. With me, obviously, guys, with manga, it's really going to be just how I feel. I want to make people, make them understand. I know a lot of people jumped on board with my channel when I started reviewing Berserk and thought that I was going to start doing manga like crazy. Like, manga is very low on the totem pole for me. I'm excited to do it, but I am very much about the written word here. So I want you to understand these things will happen, but they're not a priority for me. But I do want to get into Vinland Saga this year. So I've got like the first 5 hardcovers of these suckers. So I've got room to do that. And if I can start that sometime in this quarter, I'm going to do that. But I do want to make sure that I finish Berserk and finish Death Note before I get into this. Because I want to start a third one. Because I'm going to start getting to that point where I feel like I'm starting all these series. I'm not finishing them at all. And that's just as annoying with complete series out there, or as complete as Berserk can be, God rest his soul. But yeah, I got no excuse for not finishing Death Note and at least the Falcon of the Millennium Empire arc before I start Vinland Saga. No matter how excited I am, because I do love me some Viking stories, and this is apparently one of the best ones, so I will definitely try to fit some of that in this time if I can. Next up, you guys know I love me some Blake Crouch. Well, Abandon is the next one I have on my schedule if I get a chance to fill it in sometime January, February, or March of this year. That will be, and you look at you like, that's a big boy to fill in, dude. Guys, Blake Crouch books go so quick. They really do. You just burn through the pages. So I'm not concerned about the length of this one, if this being like a squeeze in, as to put it. But yeah, if you guys want to join for this one, I would recommend it. If you haven't read Blake Crouch yet, do it. Recursion, Dark Matter, Wayward Pines, all all fabulous stuff, and I expect no less with Abandon. Next up is one I've talked about doing with Philip recently, and I feel like I should prioritize it because Philip is prioritizing it. I saw he had it in his to-be-read stack very, very soon. This, of course, is Beowulf, the translation by one J.R.R. Tolkien. You heard of him? I think he might be pretty big. So I think that this is the translation that I want to read because I know that Philip will make me feel like an absolute simpleton when we talk about this, but I want to learn, guys, and I think that there's no one out there as far as like my peers would go, as you would call them, that I would love to learn from more than Philip, because I think he's such a genuinely nice guy, and he will always put these things in terms that a simpleton like me can understand, because I haven't read this since high school, and I do remember struggling with it a little bit. I don't remember what translation I read, but anytime it's my guy Tolkien, of course I want to give it a shot. And yeah, I feel like it's time for me to talk about something a little heavier on this channel, and something like Beowulf, because I said when I read Eaters of the Dead by Michael Crichton, it made me want to revisit Beowulf, which is kind of his retelling of it, and what better way to do it than with this awesome translation, this awesome collection version. And you got all these Tolkien ones that got this matching covers now. It's excellent. I want to get that Silmarillion up there to kind of match this, because I think it looks really excellent. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big year for Tolkien, regardless of how you feel about that Amazon adaptation that's coming out. I'm kind of like, it's cautious optimism. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more people talking about Tolkien that haven't before. So I'm excited always to talk about my guy, and even if it is a book like that. And last one, a couple more out here. I don't have the physical of them. I have it on digital. I said I want to kind of get into the James Bond novel, so Casino Royale could be one that I could see fitting in over like a weekend or something, because it's like 180 pages, and that would be the essence of a palate cleanser, right? So I love the James Bond movies. I'm a huge James Bond nut, and I think going back to Ian Fleming's novels in order would be a fun way to experience that character, that franchise, and see where it all came from. Because I've only read 2 of Ian Fleming's books, but I've liked both of them. And I want to see if my theory about Timothy Dalton being what I think is exactly how he was written, if that theory holds true reading more of these books by Mr. Fleming. And last one, I don't have a physical or a digital copy yet, and that might dictate where this kind of ranks in here. I do want to read some Robert McCammon this year, and I have settled on Boy's Life. I know a lot of people want me to do Swan Song, but Boy's Life is the way that I'm leaning right now, so that would be the one. But again, I don't have either of those physical copies. I do have Swan Song digitally, so I might be taking that back. But those are kind of the 2 that I'm looking at right now. But I think all the ones I listed before would be before that McCammon one, just because that McCammon one is just so beastie. I think all of his books are quite lengthy. But there's some people that have read McCammon on the Discord recently that said it's just fantastic, both of those books. So I don't feel like I can go wrong with either one of them. But guys, that's all the plans I've got right now for the first quarter of this new year. What do you guys got planned? You got some exciting things to try? Do you want to try any of these? Are you joining me? Talk about some Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn? I would love to hear if you are, and if you're interested in me talking a little more in depth. Look, I know I'll be reviewing that first book. I just don't know how much I'm going to do after that. I don't traditionally do reviews for sequels, because I feel like if you're going non-spoiler, you're just repeating a lot of the same things. But this one's different because, like I said, it is going to be for a read-along, so I don't mind talking about it a little more. And if some people I know really get into it, maybe we can do a roundtable discussion about it, something in the future. I know Durfee's a big fan. He'd probably love to talk to me about it, and I always love to pick Mr. Durfee's brain. So guys, that's what I got. What do you got? Drop in the comments and let me know, and I will talk to you there.